TheorySabers.com. Okay, bit of interesting piece of news that Dave Filoni is going to be the guy that's going to take over Lucasfilm after Kathleen Kennedy steps down, which is probably any day now, most likely even in August. Let's go ahead and discuss some things, why it's bad, why it's good, play devil's advocate on both, and come to some sort of a consensus, at least on my side here.
See through you. We can.
Veteran movie producer Kathleen Kennedy became president of Lucasfilm in 2012, who was put on the job by George Lucas. Now, she was put on pretty much last minute when George sold the company to Disney. He put her in charge, and Bob Iger didn't really know about it. He was just like, oh, okay. George trusted her to carry his company and carry his legacy, and he figured since he had worked with her for so many years that she would respect his story and have his best interests in mind and the fans' best interests in mind. Didn't. And so here we are.
It was said that you would destroy the Sith, not join them.
He was in the big chair during the Star Wars revival that kicked off in 2015 with The Force Awakens, the movie that went over really well, but follow-ups with The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, which were far more controversial. These articles, they really got to start telling the truth. You know, yes, it was controversial, but unanimously, I would say, it was not well received.
Nick, it's why you fail.
There have also been ups and downs on the TV side of things, with The Mandalorian and Andor becoming hits, while Book of Boba Fett and The Acolyte quietly dying in embarrassment. Well, first of all, you can't even compare Book of Boba to Acolyte. We both were bad, but Book of Boba Fett at least was somewhat better. I can't even say better. Acolyte was that terrible too. Fans have a lot of opinions of Kennedy, but she's stuck it out for over a decade and made her mark. Sure did. According to The Hollywood Reporter, she's one of several high-profile executives expected to step down in the near future, but who replaces her? Now, we've had a lot of different ideas of who could be stepping in. None of them were really all that promising. They were all just kind of like, soon I will have a new apprentice, one far younger and more powerful. For THR, the current hope is to replace Kennedy with two people who would act as co-heads. Carrie Beck, who also joined Lucasfilm in 2012, and Dave Filoni. It's unfortunate Lynn Hale stepped down. She was a really fantastic woman, and she really worked hard with George. I had the privilege of speaking with her once when Pablo Hidalgo did his thing and tried to have a little fun at my expense. She actually emailed me, and she wanted to check up on me and see if I'm all right. And I was very respectful, and I thanked her for all of her work with George, and then she retired. So that was the only kind of communication I ever had with her. Dave really started to make his mark on the animated series of Star Wars The Clone Wars, which began in 2008. He continued with Star Wars Rebels and has worked on shows with the Mando and Ahsoka. He also has a big hand in Mando and Grogu, which is currently on track to come out in theaters on May 22nd, 2026. If it hits that target, it'll be the first Star Wars movie to drop in 6 years. This isn't an absolute sure thing, as there can always be surprises in a corporate succession. There are concerns with Filoni and Beck. And, you know, I would say I was one of the biggest Dave Filoni fans. And part of me still is, because of his work on the Clone Wars and some of the other projects he's done, like Tales of the Jedi. But a big part of me now is not. Just with his overall way of dealing with all of these shows that have just gone to shit.
You're going down a path I can't follow.
Book of Boba Fett, Mando Season 3. I don't know how he allowed The Acolyte to even be a thing.
Are you blind? Just look at it.
And a lot of people say, oh, it was before his time. Listen, they were making it while he was still in his position. He could have easily been like, no, we're not doing this. No, we're not bringing Ki-Adi-Mundi back. Or we're not putting him in the story when he's not supposed to be around. We're not putting Plagueis in. We're not putting Yoda in. There needs to be more no's. No, we're not doing that.
No way. No way.
Not, okay, we'll put Yoda in at the very end, you know, just to allude to things to make you happy, Leslie. No, it's a no. Once the second started bringing in characters from the Clone Wars like Ahsoka Tano, I started to lose interest. As the insider put it, he's not the Andor guy, he's the Ahsoka guy. He's not the Andor guy, he's the Ahsoka guy. Well, yeah, one is more so, one doesn't have the Force at all.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
One doesn't have the Force at all. One is all exposition, talking, building a story about non-important characters that will form something that's very, very important, which is the rebellion. So I guess you could say they're important, but not really in terms of the original trilogy or the prequel trilogy or anything like that. Whereas Ahsoka spans throughout both. Still, I feel like Filoni has earned a chance to be the man in charge of Star Wars. Alongside Beck, Disney CEO Bob Iger is also expected to step... Oh shit, I didn't know that. Again, he already left in 2020, picking Bob Chapek to replace him. Then Chapek did a terrible job, and Iger returned to the head role in 2022. The redo is coming. Executives queue up to replace Iger include Parks head Josh D'Amaro, ESPN exec Jimmy Pitaro, and entertainment executives Dana Walden and Alan Bergman. There's a transfer of authority happening in many industries across the country, not just in Hollywood. Last year, 2,221 CEOs stepped down, the highest amount since 2002. What will the next generation do with power once they have it? Strap in. This article was originally published on winteriscoming.net as Dave Filoni next in line to replace Kathleen Kennedy as Star Wars franchise head. I mean, geez, what do I think of this? Dave Filoni, it's tough because the stupid decisions that he made, Tales of the Empire, Book of Boba Fett, Mando Season 3, Acolyte, which he was still somewhat part of, and Leslie Headland was always using him as a scapegoat. Oh, well, Dave Filoni signed off on it. Oh, yeah, great. And all the other projects that I thrown out of my head. Kenobi, I mean, how do you get to a point where you have the most important characters that you give it $90 million and then you give Andor, $300 million a season, 2 seasons of it? Bonkers. Doesn't make sense. So, and the ending of Ahsoka season 1, I thought the last few episodes were just not good at all. Like, you build us up to a decent place and then you just drop the ball and make it boring. Part of me wants to believe that a lot of his decisions that he wanted to do would have been really amazing decisions. But Kathleen Kennedy was saying no to all of this crap because she felt she knew best or she wanted something different. The other part of me says, okay, no, this is now Dave Filoni. This is how he operates, and he's been given all of this power to kind of do what he wants. And he's just kind of like a people pleaser. Like, he's just making all these people that are hired by Kathleen happy by saying yes, so people will like him. Something. I don't know.
It's not true.
I have no idea what his stance is, and I haven't quite figured him out. When he was with George, I felt like he was quite in line. Like, he was very all about George Lucas Star Wars. He was very all about the lore and really, really cared about what would George do. Whereas now I feel like he's kind of taken it and turned it into his own thing and isn't really too concerned with what George would think anymore. More so just focused on how he would operate the story, how he would carry the story, what he would do with these new characters, these new Disney characters like Sabine. So in my opinion, I don't really know where I stand with Dave Filoni because it's like we've gotten some really great projects from him. We've gotten some really not great projects from him.
Pain. Suffering.
And so I'm wondering if it was just Palpatine in the corner the whole time controlling his hand, and that being Kathleen Kennedy, or if these are actually his decisions.
I believe you are the only Jedi with no knowledge of this plot. When the Jedi learn what has transpired here, they will kill us.
A lot of people will say it was Kathleen. A lot of people will say it was him, and he has just lost the mark. Now that George is not there to control, he's just free reign, doing what he wants. At the end of the day, I think if we were to have someone take over Lucasfilm, it wouldn't just be one person. George Lucas was a genius, and he knew Star Wars, of course, better than anybody. I believe if we're going to have someone lead Lucasfilm the way George would have done, we're going to need several people. As much as I'm not really a fan of Tony Gilroy, he did do a good job with those last 5 or 6 episodes of Andor Season 2. They were quite phenomenal. I have to give credit where credit's due. Maybe I didn't feel too happy with the first few episodes or whatever, but those final ones were actually really well done in terms of exposition and story and whatever. This is not an Andor review, but they were good. So I feel like he has at least something, and he knows how to write a script or direct. And then if you have, the lore masters around him to kind of make sure that he stays within the confines of George and what he would have wanted, then great. Lucasfilm Story Group, in my opinion, I think they need to be wiped. I think we need a new Lucasfilm Story Group because most of the people in Lucasfilm Story Group today are just Disney hires. When Disney came in, and I had a few emails from some old school Lucasfilm guys, they said most of the people at Lucasfilm that were working there all through with George were fired. They were let go on the spot. They had to pack up their desks. Years of working, decades of working at Lucasfilm, like that, gone. And replace them were all Disney people from Disney.
I built this shit, brick by brick.
They weren't Star Wars people. Sure, they may have watched Star Wars, may have liked Star Wars, but they weren't working there in the trenches with George.
You know why I have money and you don't have money?
Okay.
It's because instead of spending my time doing autographs, I spent my time making movies.
Right? It's one thing to like Star Wars And it's another thing to really understand it and have grown up with it. And it's more than just some sort of oh yeah, the science fiction movie. Oh yeah, Darth Vader, right? Oh, it's more than that. If you're to have someone take over Lucasfilm and run it the way George would kind of foresee things, this would be my list. Tony Gilroy, I can't believe I'm saying that shit, but look, it was good. Dave Filoni, because at the end of the day, regardless how we feel about Dave, he is the closest guy to George Lucas in terms of having learned from him. But we just need to keep him in line. Jon Favreau, because I think Jon is just a giant kid at the end of the day who is enamored with the original trilogy. Every time he touches something Star Wars, it just feels like this dude is just a kid who loves the first 3 films that ever came out, and he's just throwing what he can at the board with that in mind and building a story through that. And for that, I see the passion, I see the fun, and I see that childish magic that he puts into the stuff, except for Mando Season 3, which was complete, and I think that was because of Kathleen Kennedy, but I'm not sure. The next person we would need is Sam Witwer, who knows a lot about the lore. Beyond that, I would have Stuart Beattie, who, my God, if you guys read his magnificent script for Kenobi, holy shit. And beyond that, I'm sure there's a couple more people that we could add to it, but I think the main 3 that I could see would be Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau, and Sam Witwer. Sam Witwer to kind of corral everything, Dave for the creative, and Jon for the pure creative, and just having fun with it. I think those 3 guys would keep things in line pretty well, and then you put Tony Gilroy in the mix to give a real comprehensive writing and exposition and pacing and all that stuff for the projects that the boys do want to make. I think that would be okay. Now, I am only saying this because I am under the impression that Kathleen Kennedy is forcing Dave's hand to make these stupid decisions when it comes to the films and shows and all that stuff that we've seen.
Impossible to see. The future is.
And nobody will know unless they're actually working there. If it is indeed Dave that's mucking these up on his own accord, then I don't know, dude. He's a mixed bag. You know, some of his stuff is great. Some of his stuff is just you're questioning, like, this was George's apprentice? What's going on? I used to be huge Dave Filoni diehard. There's been a few questionables, and now I have to reassess my opinion of him. And naturally, I can't just be a blinded fan. Oh, he's the best. No, he's done some questionable things. So if he were to come on board, you know, it'd be unfortunate because we would have to see a pattern. You know, what is he like now that he has full power, that he has full autonomy, that he has full control? He doesn't have Kathleen nagging in his ear, if she ever was, telling him what to do and what not to do. So it's a bit of a dilemma. I personally think that he can do a lot of good if he just sticks a little more to what George would have done. And I feel like ever since that he's come on board, he's become a little too free reign. George would not have done some of the decisions that you would have made. I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong, but it didn't land. And it's inconsistent, and I don't know why. Because some of his stuff is great, and some is this a different person, you know? Are there just too many heads fighting each other? That's my thoughts on Dave Filoni. It's that I'm still unsure. I like him because of his past stuff and some of his stuff, but then I question his motive and his decision-making with a lot of other things. I don't know what you guys think. I know it's a mixed bag. A lot of the subs here really dislike him. A lot of the subs here find him to be the only one to be the new hope in Star Wars. Literally, he's like Luke Skywalker. At the end of the day, let me know in the comments, is he the guy or is there somebody else? Is there someone else we don't know about in the shadows that could really lead Lucasfilm to the golden era again, the platinum era, and be loyal to George? Nobody is. No one's loyal to George, dude. They all talk a big game. And Kathleen Kennedy is the biggest game talker in the world, but she doesn't back anything up. She never once protected George or his stories or his scripts or anything like that, or his legacy. She destroyed it.
But that doesn't mean I'm unwilling to turn it over to Kathy to do more. I have story treatments of 7, 8, and 9 and a bunch of other movies, and I sort of moved that treasure trove of stories and various things to Kathy, and I have complete confidence that she's going to take them and make great movies.
So I'm hoping that whoever does come on board, they're not just going to be a clone of Kathleen, but they're really going to focus on the heart of Star Wars, and the true magic of Star Wars and what George wanted to tell, wanted to say, the story he wanted to create. For kids, for people, to inspire hope, to tell life lessons, and to make us all feel. At the end of the day, that's all what it's about. And the story of the Force and family and lightsabers, that's what it's about. Whoever takes Kathleen's place, I wish Kathleen the best of her life, and a great time away from Star Wars, hopefully. And it's unfortunate that we have to say that. I wish her tenure would have been like, we would have gotten the most amazing things, and her stepping down would have been really horrible for a lot of fans. You know, that would have been a nice reality. And I'm sure it's out there somewhere, but we're not living in that one. So with Dave, if he takes over, hope this whole time Kathleen's just been whispering in your ear, making you do things. You want to keep your job, Dave, don't you?
We must move quickly. The Jedi are relentless.
Anyways, that's it from me. I wonder what you guys think. Have a great day, and may the Force be with you.